Hello and welcome back to the Faces of Melrose Real Estate. My name is Jean McAndrews and today's show will feature Christine and Ron Rocha of RE/MAX Leading Edge, who will give an overview of RE/MAX, Lou, Izzi, and Bob Bell of the law firm of Bell and Izzi, who will discuss the legal services they provide to their clients, and Chris Cowher, Patriot Community Bank, who will give a tour and a meet and greet at Patriot Community Bank. Also, today's show will have Ron Rocha and Mike Coleman giving a tour of the historic Melrose downtown area and go over some architecture.
RE/MAX Leading Edge has 13 offices throughout eastern Massachusetts. We're actually here today at our Melrose office on Main Street. A little history about RE/MAX. RE/MAX was actually created in 1973 in Denver, Colorado by Dave and Gail Lininger. They were really concerned about the real estate profession, let's say. They were concerned about the lack of training for new agents coming in, and they were also concerned about the part-time agents who were kind of coming and going from the industry. They decided they wanted to create a real estate company that had mainly full-time, experienced, professional, well-trained real estate agents, which is essentially what RE/MAX is today. RE/MAX Leading Edge, we have, I'd say, about 180 full-time real estate agents with us. Now, Ron actually just joined maybe about 6 months ago.
6 months.
6 months. And what do you think? What stands out in your mind as far as RE/MAX is concerned?
Amazing amount of training. There's lots of training. There's something to do every day, whether it's 90 minutes, meeting with your broker, Buffini or Tom Ferry. There's always training every day, a lot to do. It helps you, well, it gives you the freedom to run your own business. That's what it does.
Absolutely. And you know, that's one thing. Real estate agents, especially here at RE/MAX, we really are small business owners. We create our own business model, and RE/MAX gives us the freedom to do that. Some people will come in as individual practitioners. Other people will decide to become a team leader and start a team. When I first joined RE/MAX, it was actually RE/MAX Heritage, and I was on the Peg and Linda O team, and that was a great experience for me. After a little while, I decided I wanted to branch out and really become my own business owner. So I became an individual practitioner. And then about 6 months ago, we had the ability of starting the Rocha Realty Group, which is what we are today. And I'd say Leading Edge, maybe about 20 teams right now within the company. So
20 teams, RE/MAX agents, because of the training, make more sales than other agents, hold more designations than most other agents. 70% of their transactions or sales come from referral business, which is about double the industry average.
Absolutely. And you know, I'd say I'd have to agree with that. When you think about our business model, we really base our business is based upon referrals, you know, and we hope that's because, and what we try and do is provide the best customer service possible to our clients. So we really need to thank our clients, our family members, our friends for continuously trusting us with their referrals. We appreciate it, and it absolutely means a lot to us. I really believe RE/MAX success is based upon a very simple formula. As we mentioned, you know, the idea of having full-time, experienced, professional, well-trained agents. And then you take a look at the global brand awareness that RE/MAX has.
One of the most recognized brands. It's in 95 states, 95 countries. You can see it from Switzerland to New Zealand. It's all over the world. It's
the red, white, and blue balloon.
Red, white, and blue balloon. It's everywhere.
Really a premier web presence. When you have a listing with RE/MAX, you are global. But not only are you global, you are on every major real estate internet site. Let's see, we would have the MLS, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. Who am I forgetting a lot? We'd have Yahoo. We'd be on Home Finder, HGTV, Front Door. So really a very, very strong internet presence, which is important in today's market. We've talked about the high level of customer service that our agents provide. And really, I also believe it's the local connection, the local involvement that our agents have, you know, whether it be volunteering or fundraising.
Or the Children's Miracle Network.
RE/MAX is huge, absolutely. The main real estate company sponsoring the Children's Network. A lot of our agents sponsor the Susan G. Coleman Fund. Ron and I, we work with Housing Families, which is an organization that helps helps homeless families, housing families, I'm sorry,
Yes.
housing families. But you know, it's this formula that I believe really creates the success in the company and makes it a great place for us to belong to. So we're here today at the law firm of Bell and Izzi, and we'll be speaking with Lou Izzi and his partner Bob Bell. So guys, we've been working together for quite a few years now, but I don't really know the history, how the two of you came together as law partners. Would you like to share a little bit of that with us today?
Well, I've been in this building since 1978. Before that, I was practicing in Malden for 7 years. But I grew up in Melrose. Wife grew up in Melrose. And, you know, after going away to school and Army, you know, decided to come back here. And we've been pretty much implanted in the community ever since. I've been involved in helping to draft the downtown historic district ordinance that got Melrose starting to focus on improving itself. I was certainly not alone, but there was a group of us back in the 70s who did that. And then have been involved in virtually everything that has had to do with the development of the city since that time going forward. And that's been a particular point of pride, because I think that the projects that we've been involved in have been very good for the city and have helped to make it what it is now, which is certainly recognized as one of the most forward-thinking, appropriate, redevelopment communities in the region, and towns from all of eastern New England come to Melrose to see what has happened here. And now it's being recognized, and we've had certainly significant developments in what's called smart growth or transit-related development. That is Oak Grove Village, now called Windsor at Oak Grove, and Stone Place, and there's more to come. Melrose is absolutely the prototype of a railroad suburb and a transit-oriented community. It has been since the 1840s. That's what makes Melrose Melrose. We're not alone, but we've recognized it, and I think the times are right for Melrose in terms of what developers are looking for, but also what homeowners are looking for. And I think the community is in a really good place, and I think we've played our role in that in many ways, from helping the individual homeowners buy and get their financing straight, but up through assisting quality developers who've come into the town and have worked cooperatively with the city. I think the city itself, gets a lot of credit because unlike a lot of communities where it's a control situation, command and control from City Hall in Melrose, it's really a private-public partnership model that's been used, and it's been very successful. Who came along, I practiced with another partner who's now deceased for decades. Lou, you came along.
Came along after, while I was in law school, actually.
Right.
Bob and Jerry saw fit to take me on as a law clerk, and I haven't left. I've been here ever since, which is fine by me. It's been terrific. And
So we must not have been too bad.
no, terrific. They were terrific bosses, and Bob's a good partner. But back, my wife's originally from Melrose, and so when I was in law school and we were deciding on where we were going to eventually plant our roots, Melrose was a natural choice for us. And having worked here in town, from our perspective, there was no other place to live and raise our family. And we've enjoyed doing that, with our 3 kids, and still in the process of doing that. But so back in 1993, when I first came on board here, is when we started practicing together. And obviously since then our practice has grown, and I've enjoyed practicing in the community in which I live. I find it very rewarding to be able to help my neighbors certainly here locally, but also in surrounding communities, but to be able to help them with whatever their legal needs are, and to be able to get that sense of satisfaction from knowing that I'm, trying to do something good for my fellow Melrosians and others. But I think, touching upon what Bob was mentioning, a moment ago about how the city has progressed over the past many years and how Melrose is so well positioned these days in terms of having the right mix of development and that public-private partnership that you talked about. I think one of the things that we both take pride in is our sense of loyalty to the community and ensuring that whatever we do, both as lawyers and as citizens, helps to improve the community. And I think that that's something that certainly the development that we've been involved with, I think looking back, people can look at those as being positive steps in Melrose's progress and progression. So I think that what we have is a good partnership, and it helps to better the community in many different ways.
We like to say that we deliver downtown expertise at suburban prices. And I think we truly believe that in our areas of concentration that we can provide clients with the most sophisticated types of legal assistance, the state of the art that they need. And where we don't, in the areas that we don't, we act as like gatekeeper to the specialists that might be needed. And we feel that within our areas of concentration, we can compete with anybody at any size firm and deliver the goods. And we do it at suburban pricing, which is a lot different than downtown pricing is these days. The legal field has become hyper specialized, just like medicine, just like a lot of other fields. But there is a role, a real serious role for the generalist. And this is where we have certain areas of concentration, all forms of real estate, estate planning, small business. We do those things in depth.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have a broader view, because we're a general practice, we have a broader view of what people's needs are, similar to your primary care physician, your family doctor. We don't attempt to do hyper-specialized things, but we know people who do. And but in the areas where we concentrate, we feel we can deliver the goods and deliver them at a reasonable price. Our pricing is really no different than anybody else in the suburbs, but we think the quality that we give and the level of sophistication is a step beyond most.
And I'd have to agree with that.
Well, thanks.
How about as far as your areas of concentration? Do you want to focus in a little bit more? Do you want to talk? I know real estate,
Sure.
as far as what the two of you do, and I'd love to have you share a little of that, and then
Sure.
we'll go off.
Well, as Bob mentioned, certainly representing clients in all aspects of real estate, from your traditional homeowner, home buyer, to representing many different national and regional lenders, sellers, commercial developers. I think between the two of us have seen it all basically, and represented clients in just about every aspect of the law when dealing with real estate. But beyond that, I think certainly our estate planning practice is one that is of significance for whether you're talking about a general estate plan for the young couple that's just embarking on their lives together with perhaps a small child or children, to the more sophisticated type of planning for those older individuals who have accumulated some wealth and want to do some estate planning, tax planning, things along those lines, so that we're well positioned to to handle all aspects of that as well. I think one of the things that we find, and I'm not in any way ashamed to say this, that I learned from Bob as a young law school student starting out, and I think I'd like to believe that it was innate in me and Bob drew it out, but be that as it may, I think one of the things that we do very well is we develop client relationships, and we see our clients not just as a one transaction occurrence with an individual or individuals. We see our role as truly being their counselors, being their lawyers, and taking, I think as you mentioned earlier, taking a holistic view of what this particular matter means in relation to everything else that's going on in our clients' lives. And so that building of the relationship, that building of trust, is something that we take a lot of time doing, and we invest in our clients in that way, because I think ultimately that allows us to serve them much better than we otherwise could. And so I think developing those relationships is something that we're both quite good at doing, and it serves us well, and it also serves our clients very well.
Yeah, this is something I think that being in general practice, you just do sort of automatically. But when you represent somebody on one transaction, if your point of view is, as Luke calls it, holistic, or you're looking at them in the context of the rest of their lives, and you're looking for a long-term relationship, so you might help somebody start a business, but you keep an eye on them to see how they're doing. If they're doing well, they're immediately getting themselves into the need for some more sophisticated help. So if all we did, if all the person did was to go to a specialist to form their entity, and that it was a one-shot deal, what happens a year or two later when the entity is successful and needs to move into new phases, and where the principles of it are starting to accumulate some assets and need to start planning. And the time that you do your best planning for people is before they hit it big, so that you can help set up things for their children in an efficient way for them to fund college education and things of that nature, and help them to plan for their future as it's happening, as opposed to after it's already happening. And I think that's one of the benefits of, we can be sort of ahead of the curve with clients instead of behind the curve when we're doing our true function as general practice lawyers, which is something that I think people, in an age of specialization, people end up going to the specialist, generally speaking, when the need is acute, when they should have been there, a while earlier.
Mm-hmm. The difference between preventative medicine
Right.
and reactive.
Right.
In many ways.
So it's been very gratifying to watch some of our clients, become extremely successful. We think the world of your outfit, because we think that leading edge, RE/MAX leading edge, really is, a leading edge in terms of how you represent your clients, how you work with buyers in one way, with sellers in another way, and help them to achieve their objectives, which of course are not identical. Buyers want to get the best value for the money. Sellers want to get the most money. Getting them together is really critical. Getting both sides to say yes, but doing it in a way with both parties' interests to serve, depending on which side you're on, is something that I think is not done in residential real estate to the same extent that we would like to see it done. And this is, generations of practice are now being addressed by, RE/MAX leading edge in a way that I think is really good for the customers.
I think your approach, just to pick up on that point, your approach is similar to what we've talked about in terms of taking a holistic approach to the real estate process, the real estate transaction process. You have that team approach to have an excellent real estate agent, whether you're buying or selling, but also to have those other pieces in place, to have a good lender whom you trust and can rely upon to ensure that on the buy side that your buyer is not only qualified but also qualified well enough in advance that there aren't any hiccups at closing, to make sure that the process is smooth and that you have a good real estate attorney who's well versed in any aspect of real estate, so that if there is a curveball thrown, which we all know there's going to be, that's just the way the deals have evolved these days. There are no easy deals, and so having that team in place enables you and your team to take that holistic approach to serve your clients, so that if there are and when there are bumps in the road, you have those professionals in place, a good lender, a good lawyer, to be able to ride that out, to solve the problems so as to affect as little upon the transaction as possible, and to get those two people, or those two sides, to the table on time, on schedule, and to conclude it successfully. So
We've been really both proud and pleased to play a role with RE/MAX Leading Edge in trying to address some of the chronic weak spots in real estate marketing. I think that RE/MAX Leading Edge has developed documents that, from both parties' perspectives, are very informative, more informative than normal in helping people understand their transactions. And I think that the way you approach your relationships with your customers in terms of educating them about what they're about to go through is really where you should be. And the fact that we've been able to help you develop documents that are more protective of people than the standard documents, particularly documents that are used at the stage of the transaction where lawyers are not involved generally. Nobody wants to delay. Nobody wants to delay getting the parties together when it's on a weekend and the lawyers aren't available. Most real estate transactions really start to happen over the weekend. And the fact that you have documents that are protective of the parties during that phase before they get their lawyers involved, I think that's really been good, and to a certain extent, when you could call it revolutionary compared to normal practice. And having played a role in that, and having in this case clients who listened to what we see based on, for me, it's been 43 years of watching the residential real estate market. And Lou, hasn't been 43, but it's getting up there. You're deep in double figures.
it's 20.
20.
20
you go,
years.
right.
I hit the magic 20 mark.
And he didn't have a gray hair when he started.
That's
And I had hair when we started. Experience counts. Experience counts, and people of younger generations think it's all about the data. It's not. Experience helps to temper the data, and data is what they I don't know if they still say this in the tech world, but they used to say junk in, junk out. And a lot of the data that people are trying to base their decisions on, people think that they can go on to these various online services and learn everything they need to know. No, not true. And the one key signal that we're going to have a difficult transaction is when our client decides to get financing through the internet.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Here we go. There's not going to be any servicing.
Right.
And
That's true.
it's just going to be a pain in the neck for everybody.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can't necessarily tell people, you know, I had a client very recently, this is just a small anecdote, but the data question, they had a huge problem on a home remodeling contractor. And they got their contractor through Angie's List. And with Angie's List had some kind of like top choice, you know, top 10 choice thing, ranking thing. Guy was in their testimonials all over. When the job went wrong, it turned out that he had been convicted of home improvement fraud a couple times. Licenses suspended in Rhode Island. There were warrants for his arrest. You know, and I said, well, who was your agent? And they told me who the agent was. Oh, well, yeah, right, agent told me you so-and-so. And I said, well, if you'd asked me, that's who I would have said to use too. But instead, they use the Angie's List. And this is what I'm saying, that you really can't, you know, there is no substitute for the old-fashioned way of doing things. Talk to somebody with a lot of experience, see what they have to say, talk to a couple people with a lot of experience. Don't just depend on your own, you know, data crunching. And I think that we fit into that mold. We have a lot of experience. We've been through thousands of transactions. So there isn't too much new that's going to come that we don't have a way of addressing. And I think that people should think about that when they're shopping for services. They should be thinking about the expertise, the experience, you know, the whole package.
I agree with that, obviously, but to take that a step further, you know, we often hear from brokers that there are lawyers that will represent their clients and do the purchase and sale agreements for free, and they use that as a marketing tool. We don't subscribe to that theory because we are professionals and we obviously want to do a very good job for our clients and we take pride in what we do. But a lot of times those lawyers that are offering that type of service they're pigeonholed. That's all that they do. And what many people don't recognize is that with real estate, a working knowledge and really the ability to practice in the probate area is essential, because those two worlds are often intertwined, because the only two ways that you can acquire an interest in real estate, one is by virtue of receiving it through a deed, a conveyance, and the other is through inheritance.
Yeah.
And to practice in real estate and not have a probate background, in our opinion, is something that is it's mystifying, but we see it all the time. And our ability to not only represent our clients with respect to the real estate transaction, but also if there is an issue that relates to that real estate that has a probate element in it, we're able to handle that as well and troubleshoot and solve those issues as they arise, whereas many lawyers out there do not, and they have to then refer the probate aspect to somebody else. And we see that.
Well, real
very
estate's
often.
totally multidisciplinary, because everything to do with real estate is everything that happens in people's lives gets reflected in real estate. If there's divorces, if there's deaths, if there's people under guardianships, if there's people with business problems that are on the other side of the transaction, it all gets reflected in the real estate transaction. And so having some knowledge of these various fields helps you to guide your client through the maze. And it's totally wrong to think of a house transaction as something standard like buying an appliance. It is not. This is the biggest financial transaction of almost everybody's life. If you make a mistake in it, it sets you back for a decade. And our job is to help people avoid those kind of problems.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. I
Okay.
think that was a wonderful overview of the practice and the services that you offer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'd like to welcome you to Patriot Community Bank. Chris Cowher here. We're going to take a few minutes today to talk with John O'Donnell, the president of Patriot Community Bank, as well as my boss, who's Jean Durr. She's the senior vice president of retail mortgage lending here. We'll get to know a little bit about them and some of the products we have to offer here at Patriot Community Bank, which is a local community bank right here in this area. Hi, so welcome here to Patriot Community Bank. I'd like to introduce Jean Durr. She's the senior vice president here at the bank and my boss actually. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to ask her a few questions about her thoughts on some of the banking products, the mortgage products, and her view of things here. Maybe we could start out, Jean, just by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, thanks for having me, Chris. And I have been in the mortgage business since 1985. Lots of things have changed since then. I started my first into the mortgage business was at the Boston 5 on School Street in Boston, which is no longer there. And I have loved it. I've had a career in mortgage lending, and I've had the joy of putting people into their first homes and meeting so many wonderful people along the way. And so I'm really happy to be here.
Great. So, one of the first things I wanted to ask you is the same thing I get asked a lot about. I mean, how do you see current market conditions, regarding, the mortgage business and residential lending, real estate and things like that right here in our area?
Market conditions over the past year have been tough. It's been a little bit of a tough market as far as inventory goes right now. We have a lot of people standing in line for the same property, and it makes it tough for the first-time home buyers because there are a lot of cash sales going on right now, and it's really a seller's market. Properties are appreciating, which is good for sellers and good for the economy. But it's a competitive arena right now, and so it's been a little bit difficult over the last, I'd say, year.
Yeah,
with lending.
We are seeing a lot of multiple offer situations, especially when it comes to, like Jean said, some of the first-time home buyers. I know they're seeing it difficult because they come in and they're competing against sometimes 10 or 15 other offers on the properly priced homes out there right now that are in that market. So it's surprisingly that the low inventory has lasted so long. So how do you see the end of the fall market here and maybe the winter market going forward? Have you seen any signs?
Things have picked up a little bit. Rates are coming back around. We've had a good last couple of weeks interest rate wise. And I think that people are, if they are deciding to put homes on the market, it seems like the inventory is starting to pick up a little bit. I think that obviously when you go into the winter months, people slow down as far as putting their houses on the market. But this fall, we've seen a pickup because of the interest rate environment that we've had over the past couple of weeks. And I do see interest rates as continuing to stay where they're at and peak down a little bit. We did have a burst, so to speak, of low interest rates, and I think that it hit the media after the rate had already gone back up again, which was discouraging to a lot of people. But we are in a pretty good interest rate environment. I mean, back in 2012, we saw rates in the low threes. We were at like 3.25 on a 30-year fixed. Today, we're about 3.75, which is a half a point spread, but still a really, really good rate. So
yeah, especially, most of us going into 2014, all the experts, including the Federal Reserve and some of the, ones that monitor those, expected interest rates to sort of go up throughout the year.
right.
And actually, some of them even said before we reach 2015, we may hit the 5% level
Right.
for 30-year fixed rate. So it's been a great benefit, and to be able to pass that savings along to buyers gives them a lot more buying power at the lower interest rates. So it's really been a little bit of a boom here for us,
Really
keeping
has.
these rates low. And again, it's nice to hear that you think rates might stay low for a while now. So there may be some opportunities out there for more people to, be able to afford homes and to be able to get into a home. Certainly, I didn't expect interest rates to be back in the threes for both jumbo and non-jumbo fixed rate loan. So it's still a great opportunity. So that's really good. You know, maybe we can just talk a minute about, you know, Patriot Community Bank itself here. You know, I enjoy working here. I love the process. I love the experience that the customer can experience here as far as, you know, from applying right on to closing. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what we have here as far as the operational end of things here that we're able to, again, offer our clients.
Well, I started at a bank. As I said, I started at Boston 5 back in the 80s. And Boston 5 was a pretty big bank. And through my career, I've been with huge lenders, huge correspondent lenders. And I've also worked at a couple of different banks. And when I made this choice to come to Patriot to start up their lending division, it was a breath of fresh air, because I remember as a kid having a bank right down the street from our house, and that's where we had our checking account, that's where we had our savings account, and that's the flavor of this bank. Right now we're a one bank. We do have plans to open another branch, but we have customers that have been with the bank since the beginning in 2006. And our lending division here has grown since I came in 2009. And we are just known in the community. Mr. O'Donnell, the bank president, will talk a little bit about that. But people just love the fact that they're working with a small community bank, and that they can come and they can walk in and sit down, and they have their checking account here and their savings account. And we offer all different types of products. We do some aggressive lending here. And we have people like Chris on board that go out and let the people in the community know about us, and we're really happy that we're part of that. So
Yeah, you know, just to piggyback on that a little bit, it's been really interesting because the pendulum's kind of swing. We were talking earlier about how, you know, small banks did the majority of the lending, as Jean pointed out in her younger years there. Everybody worked with their local community bank. And then there was a period of time there where the big banks, it seemed to attract a lot of people only because they were acquiring banks. There was some banks that, you know, couldn't make it on their own as they competed against the large banks. And the bigger banks just sort of got bigger and bigger, and started becoming regional banks and then, you know, nationwide banks, and they captured so much of the business. And I think there was some good in that at the time, but also now I think the pendulum has swung the other way, where people are a little bit intimidated by the big bank. They you know, and I can tell you what's really nice about Patriot Community Bank, just, you know, again, not only from working here, but I don't know what we can offer that a big bank can offer anybody in our community here, whether it's checking accounts, savings accounts, aggressive commercial lending, residential lending for home buying. You know, we really can have the same products, if not more products at times, with a much higher level of personalized service from just having it from a local bank. So again, I think that's come into play a lot more. People can get a much more aggressive interest rate at times, and certainly much better service.
yes.
We have the ability to sit down and talk about things here. We don't have to worry about the loan being shipped off to another part of the country or dealing with someone that we don't know. We know each other. We can trust each other. We can therefore make the best spotlight on the client here and really talk about what options we can have in order to help people, whether we're doing it in-house or, again, through some of the traditional line of businesses. So I think that's one of the things also that we have here, which is really nice.
I had a call the other day. I get a lot of the calls that come in just checking interest rates, and I talked to a customer who had just gone on the internet and found Patriot Community Bank and called in to check interest rates. And I had a great conversation with her, because what I typically do when somebody calls in is I say, "How did you hear about us?" And they say, 9 out of 10 people say, "The reason why I'm calling is because you're a small community bank." So I think that people, their focus is going back to that as well. I hear it anyways. It's refreshing.
Yeah, and again, you know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, I'm happy here and I'm glad that I came on board here, is because, again, I live locally, we lend locally. This is sort of like what John, the president of the bank, will say is our footprint, meaning that, you know, we really like to do a lot of business right here in the area. Yeah, we can do business elsewhere, but this is really where we focus, is right here in our communities around us. So Thank you very much, Jean. Anything else that you want to add?
No, I just want to encourage everybody, first-time home buyers especially, not to get discouraged, because I do really believe that inventory will start to improve. And to give us a call, because we have so many innovative first-time home buyer programs, and we're very interested in helping you find your dream house.
Great. Thanks, Jean, very much.
So welcome.
Hi, welcome back. I'm here with John O'Donnell. He's the president of Patriot Community Bank, and I thought it'd be a chance for us to get to know him a little bit and have him share some of his thoughts on the lending in this community and banking in this community. John, maybe you can start out by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in banking for almost 30 years. I don't want to admit that sometimes, but so I've seen a lot of business cycles, ups, downs, good, bad, and the ugly, as they say. I started in residential lending. From there, I went into construction lending, commercial lending, and then I worked for a number of banks at executive levels right up until we started this bank.
Yeah, what is one of the reasons why you thought about starting a community bank? I mean, that seems like such a daunting task.
Yeah.
And, so what made you do that?
Well, myself and a few local businessmen, I've known each other for 20, 30 years, actually, in all honesty. And in the early 2000s, there were a lot of bank mergers occurring in the industry. And we just thought it would be a good opportunity to start a small community bank to service sole proprietors, small business, family-owned type individual companies. When we first started talking about it, it said, well, this was a pretty good deal. Let's try to work this out. And but it was a lot harder than we thought. But here we are 8 years later, and things have gone very well.
Yeah, that's great. I know some of the accomplishments were, I know last year we were voted one of the most safest banks in Massachusetts,
Right.
certainly in the conversation about that. And,
Right.
Jean and I were just talking in the last segment a little bit about how the pendulum has sort of swung between back in the day when we were younger. Everybody went, my mom and dad and
Right.
Jean and everybody was saying how we went to the local bank to get our savings accounts,
Right.
our vacation accounts, whether we
Right.
wanted to borrow or not, that's where we went. And we were talking about how some of the smaller banks got bought out by some of the regional banks, and then the
Right.
regional banks got bought out by some of the national players. And we got away from that a little bit. And I know, in our conversations in the past is that really we're starting to see a lot of those clients or customers want to work with more local banks, and that we can deliver the same products at a local level.
Right.
What are some of the products that you feel that we have here at Patriot that we can offer the community?
Well, we offer all types of products. We offer residential loans, obviously. We offer commercial loans. On the deposit side, we even offer the online banking. So we do offer that convenience that everybody is looking for in today's market. One of the biggest and most important aspects of the bank is that all the local decisions are made here. Okay, if a customer walks in and we need to accommodate them on a timely manner, we can make those decisions quickly here. And that's where the personalized service comes in. We think we do that really well here. And that's the niche that we're really looking for. It's the people that want that personalized service. And especially on the commercial side, and a lot of times you're in a really competitive situation. It's very time sensitive. And our local, what we call loan committee, is within 3 or 4 miles from the bank here. And if it's a loan that's above my limit, I can call them right now, and they'll be here tonight at 4 o'clock, and we can get a decision made quickly. So
Yeah, I've actually seen that firsthand. Coming from a bigger bank to here, it's a breath of fresh air. There's been a couple of times when I've had to go to Jean and yourself and say, hey, I have a loan I'm bringing in on a Monday and it needs to close the following week, and we've been able to pull it off. It's very refreshing and surprising, and certainly impressive to the customers and other people like that we're able to do that. And I think in today's world, that to be able to deliver that level of service is really nice. So, I mean, just expanding on that a little bit, how do you see the role of a community bank like this in the community around us here?
I do think it's a great opportunity for a bank like us. Again, we're out in the community. We have lending officers like yourself on the residential side, and we also have commercial lending officers. We're involved in a lot of different civic groups, such as the Rotary clubs and the Kiwanis clubs, the Chamber of Commerce's. So we get the word out that, hey, we're a friendly bank. We offer the products that the bigger banks offer, but with better service. And if you want that personalized touch, come on in and see us. And what we look for is the whole relationship. We know we may not get that day one, but once we really understand the family or the business or the individual, when they come in and they have a problem, and let's face it, if you're around long enough, you're going to have a problem once in a while. Somebody knows who you are, and we can respond accordingly. And that's what we like to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know being around here for a little bit, many of the clients we refer to as friends and colleagues, and they're really, our customers and clients. And we can offer the same products and services and rates that the big banks can, sometimes even at a more competitive interest rate, and certainly much better service and personalized service. The people here that I know when I do a loan for them, they know who the underwriter is by first name.
Right.
They know who's processing or junior underwriting the loan.
Right.
And we all are part of a team. It's not somebody we don't know, your loan is shipped off to some other part of the country.
Right.
It's done right here locally. It never leaves
Right.
this area here from, origination of the loan right on through closing. And even beyond closing, if something comes up, we're always there for our past clients to be able to help them, whatever comes up.
Right.
And again, we always say, and you have said the best compliment anybody can ever give us is another referral.
Absolutely, that's what we want.
Or to bring in their
Right.
other family members,
Right.
and it's nice when you're in it long enough that you can see parents eventually that you helped bring in their children
Right.
and be able to help them. So
Right.
I know that's the culture here, and I know that's how we do business. Anything else you want to share with us about what you think about the Patriot or maybe the economy, or how you see things moving ahead in the future?
Well, I mean, it's been a difficult period in the economy for the past 4 or 5 years, no question about that, although rates continue to be at very, very low levels, which is advantageous for the customers. Most of the refinance business has been accomplished by now, so now it's purchase business. The current inventory levels are low, but they're now increasing. We're seeing a lot more new construction homes going up, so we, like everybody else, I think, is being a little bit cautious to make sure that what happened in the mid-'80s doesn't happen again. But I think a lot of us have learned from those mistakes, and we're going to move forward, and everything will move along smoothly.
And we're pretty blessed to be in an area here with some, good business partners too.
Yeah, right.
A good clientele, good business partners,
Right.
and people that, really, want to do the right things, and that's been refreshing as well. I know that, some of the struggles that other parts of the country have had, we haven't had as deep of a struggle
Absolutely.
here.
That's correct.
And again, I think the educational level and the college levels and
Right.
things like that we have here have really helped that out. But
Right.
regardless of whatever the situation is, it's nice that they have somebody here that they can come talk to.
Right.
Even the ones that have been through some tough times, I know that we can sometimes make exceptions and things like
Absolutely.
that other
Right.
banks can't.
Right.
So
We
I
take a
really
lot of pride
appreciate
in that. When customers have had some difficulties in the past, they
Yeah.
want to come in, we will counsel them, direct them, and hopefully at some point achieve, if it's buying a home or buying a car or whatever it may be, that at some
Right.
point they're able to do that. That's what we're here for.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate taking some time, and I look forward to us doing a lot of business together with the community right here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Ron Rocha, Faces of Melrose Real Estate. I'm here with Mike Coleman, local resident architect. Today we're going to give a little information on a few of the historic buildings in Melrose. I'm going to start with Memorial Hall behind me here. Mike, what do you think?
So Ron, this building here was built in 1912, and as you can see, it's a gray granite block building. Has a real interesting history. Originally, before the building was built, there was a big pond behind the building, so they filled that in so they could build the building, and created some problems later on down the line. I guess they had to condemn it back around 1928. But great building, as everybody knows. It's home to the Melrose Symphony Orchestra, which is the oldest continuously performing orchestra in the United States. So through the years, they've been renovating this building. Most recently, they did an HVAC upgrade, and the building is handicap accessible, seats about 800 people, and it's a great example of some of the early architecture here on Main Street.
Oh, that's great, Mike. All right, want to move on to our next building? We'll take a look at the fire station here. It's right next to Memorial Hall, between City Hall. What do you think of this one, Mike?
Okay, so this is the Central Fire Station. This building was built in 1895, and at the time was considered a state-of-the-art in fire protection, as they say. And maybe not the case today because the technology has changed. The trucks that go in the buildings are a lot bigger now, but still a great example of architecture from the 1800s. And the building is it's got brick detailing, slate roof. Probably needs some TLC right now. Looks like it needs some repointing, but still another fantastic building here in Melrose. One of my favorites, actually.
Thanks, Mike. And third building here, City Hall, with its mansard roofs and iconic clock tower. What can you tell us about this one, Mike?
So, Ron, I did a little research on this one, and I was a little bit surprised about the history of this building. Again, this one was built, this is the oldest one that we're looking at today. It was built in 1874. There's actually a stone up on one of the mansard roofs that has that date. What's interesting is the second floor actually was built back around the late 1930s, early 1940s. When this building was originally built in 1874, it was a Second Empire style. It was actually 3 stories, and the clock tower was almost like a steeple. It was probably twice as tall as it is now. But in 1937, there was a fire, and the upper 2 stories had to be removed. So what you see there today, and you can actually tell if you look closely at the building, the brickwork changes from the first to the second floor. So those mansard roofs are a lot different than what was there. They still have slate tiles, or slate shingles, shall I say, but it's the detail is much less than what was original. Except the first floor still has all the original detailing, but again, it's a great example of architecture as it evolves over time. Many of the buildings that you see, and the firehouse included, that's not all original. The doors were added at a later date. So I think that the City Hall building is, that bit of history I was unaware of. I think is really interesting.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was interesting. We're going to move on to a few more buildings further down on Main Street, all right? All right, here we are down the street a little bit, in the corner of Main and Essex. We're taking a look at the Whittemore Hardware Store. What do you think of this building, Mike?
Well, this block right here, I know the least about as far as when they were the buildings were constructed. I presume around late 1800s, early 1900s, and it's a really good example of that period of architecture. As you can see, the building here on the corner, Affairs to Remember, is mostly a clapboard building with a lot of cornice detailing up at the roof's edge. The next building down is a 3-story brick structure with some projecting bays that, again, are wood detailing there. And then when you get down to the Whittemore Hardware building, all well-maintained buildings, it's primarily a brick structure. What I find interesting about that building is how the brick color changes at the top of the building. And I'm not sure if that's original or if there was something that happened over the time. I heard there was a fire here at one point. But again, I presume all late 1800s buildings, early 1900s, and I think really part of the character of downtown Melrose is, as you can see, is these buildings sort of change as you go down through.
Thanks, Mike. All right, we're going to take a walk down to the Y now and take a look at that. All right, last but not least, we're going to take a look at the Y, a building that everybody knows, we've all been in. Mike, what do you think of the Y?
Well, again, this is definitely one of my favorites here in Melrose. The original structure was built in 1895, and what I thought was kind of interesting about it is that at the time it was considered the nicest YMCA building in the United States. And it was also used at the time to house a bank, and the library was also in there. So this building's got some great brick detailing. You see the 3 dormers up top. There's slate roofing again, a lot of copper detailing, and just a fantastic building. There are 2 additions here that we see to the side, one with the swimming pool, and there's a little annex connector. Those obviously weren't built in 1895. I'm presuming around 60s, 70s. Not as sympathetic to the original structure as I would like to see, but not as offensive as I've seen done in the past. But obviously, the original structure is certainly my favorite. I love the color of the storefront down below. And that brick detailing up top and the copper is it just really adds to it for me.
Hey, well, thanks, Mike. Thanks for your time. Thanks for all the information. For Faces of Melrose Real Estate, this is Ron Rocha, signing off.
This concludes our show for today. Thank you for joining us again for the Faces of Melrose Real Estate. Please check out our Facebook page and our new website, fyi-re.com, and leave any comments or suggestions you may have for any future episodes. Please tune us in on Thursday nights at 8, Saturday evenings at 7, or Wednesday mornings at 11 o'clock. And we're excited to go on to our next episode, which will be our holiday show. Thank you.